The story begins with a skinny youngster named Ark, who dreams of being an adventurer. One day, he shows up at the Voltana branch of the Adventurers Guild alongside his childhood best friend named Leanne to register with the guild as newbies. Being a silent lover, Ark has already set his heart on saving up enough to buy Leanne a ring and confess his feelings. Just as the walking stick starts daydreaming about his crush, the receptionist calls them up. The second Leanne gets appraised, the lady behind the counter nearly drops her glasses. Turns out, she's rocking a cap level of 80 with an arsenal of 3 top-tier priestess skills. As the receptionist calls Ark's name, Leanne cheers him on, and Ark confidently places his hand on the crystal, quietly praying for at least something that might help him protect his future wifey. But as the process completes, all he's met with is the receptionist looking at him like he just told her he's planning to fight dragons with a spoon. She gives a half-hearted apology before casually dropping the bombshell that he's a total nobody, stuck with a cap level of 1 and cursed with the infamous, completely useless skill known as instant death magic. Ark becomes the laughing stock of the entire guild, and they mockingly label him the weakest magician in history. Leanne gently takes his hand and tries to drag him out of the guild to get him away from the humiliation. Just then, a high-level S-rank party shows up, and its leader Alan walks over to Leanne and tries to recruit her into his party for the sake of humanity. Ark, who's already been hit with enough emotional damage, starts getting nervous, though deep down he's sure his girl isn't the kind to just say yes to anyone. However, she does say yes and casually walks away when Ark could really use her. Ark tries to stop her, reminding her of their grand promise to travel together. As Alan heads out with her, the door closes right in Ark's face like life just put a full stop on his dreams. The broke loser suddenly snaps and storms toward the door, clearly planning to chase after the girl, but ends up crashing into a towering brute with scars named Baltzark. People nearby start whispering as they recognize the guy as the notorious S-rank berserker, wondering what business a thug like him could possibly have in Voltana. Ark acts like he's seen a ghost and bolts out of the guild. He keeps running with no idea where he's headed and eventually ends up in a quiet forest outside town. He drops to the ground and breaks down, thinking he's lost the love of his life. Just then, a rustling sound comes from a bush nearby, and he jolts up, bracing for another disaster, only to spot a slime bouncing out of it. Relieved but also desperate, Ark figures he might as well try his so-called skill on something this week. He chants the incantation and watches as sinister skull-shaped shadows shoot toward the slime monster. But the slime just bounces in place like nothing happened. Ark grits his teeth and tries again, only for a crushing wave of exhaustion to slam into him for using the spell for the first time. Out in the middle of nowhere, the poor guy starts screaming and crying like the world just collapsed on him. After he lets it out for a while and calms down for a bit, the same slime from before pops up again and makes its way toward him. Ark pokes the little thing, thinking to himself how much they have in common since both are probably the weakest around, and that's enough for him to decide they should become friends. He apologizes for attacking it earlier and is just about to get up and head back when a massive bear suddenly appears out of nowhere. This terrifying beast has a cross-shaped mark and 4 glaring eyes, and it looks like it has no intention of letting him go. The bear raises its paw to strike with full force, but Ark accidentally trips over the slime and ends up only getting a minor scratch. He immediately realizes that if he had not fallen at that moment, he would have been done for. That's when it hits him that the horrifying creature standing in front of him is a killing bear, the kind of monster that usually needs a C-ranked party just to take it down. Ark wonders what a monster like that is doing so close to town and tries to make a run for it, but the beast charges after him, grabs him without a hint of mercy and slams him against a tree. Blood spills out of his mouth as he coughs in pain, thinking maybe this is exactly how it feels to be tossed aside like trash. And knowing he's stuck at level 1, the only thing left for him to do is laugh at how pathetic this ending is. With death staring him right in the face, his mind flashes back to how even his childhood friend left him behind, how everyone laughed at him, and now he's about to be crushed like an insect. But somewhere deep in all that misery, something snaps. He decides he's done accepting this as his fate. He screams out that it won't be him dying today, but the monster, and with that, he activates his instant death skill once again, clenching his eyes shut and hoping something happens. When he dares to open them, he finds the terrifying bear lifeless and already down on the ground. Somehow, his skill actually worked against a beast like that. Ark collapses onto the dirt beside it, finally letting out a breath of relief as the madness settles for a moment. Suddenly, a menacing floating window that fits his skill pops up and tells him to use the 20 points he just earned from the skill upgrade. Ark stares at it for a second and starts shaking his head like an idiot, and then wonders what these skill points even mean before deciding he should go with the flow. He looks at his stats screen that says he's a level 1 daredevil and dumps all 20 points into instant death. Ark feels slightly disappointed that even though his skill level shoots through the roof, he still ends up stuck as a hopeless level 1 scrub with no future and no dreams, though he holds on to the tiny chance he might be able to level up his skills forever. Without wasting a second, he tells it to show the details of his skill, and a massive map opens with endless branches showing all the upgrades he can pick from. Out of curiosity, he taps one of the buttons and sees it's an upgrade that boosts the skill's power when enemies are nearby, and sometimes unlocks bonus abilities when skill points are used. After reading that, he feels a bit put off since mages like him usually stay in the back and nuke enemies from a distance, so throwing hands up close feels way too risky for a magic user. But that explains why the skill worked against the bear that got right in his face, and the bonus effect wiped away his pain and wounds like a level-up would. That tiny win gives him some hope he might survive fights with monsters even while stuck at level 1. Though now he's got the headache of picking the right skill to use his precious points on, before realizing his brain isn't built for thinking and just slaps buttons at random like a sleep-deprived raccoon. Out of nowhere, one of the skill buttons glows and catches his attention. And when he taps on the coffin icon, it shows that he can store the corpses of any enemies he wipes off the face of the earth in some pocket dimension, which makes him genuinely hyped, because now he gets infinite storage to haul monster bodies to the guild without even breaking a single sweat. He casts the spell on the bear's body with full excitement and watches as thick black fog wraps around the corpse until not a single trace of it remains. Then he taps on another button that turns out to be the cracked ability, allowing him to absorb the skills of anything he slays using instant death. He quickly realizes the mana cost is outright criminal, but if he plays it smart, this is the one skill that might actually help him get strong enough to win his waifu back from that shady blonde rat. After dumping all his skill points, Ark feels satisfied with the powers he now holds and appreciates that he can check his stats anytime he wants without getting appraised at the guild. He stares into the endless blue sky, thinking about the raw power in his hands, and swears to himself that he will go from the weakest scrub in town to the most dangerous magician on the whole continent. Back at the guild lady's jaw goes straight to the basement the second he casually whips a big black bear out of his pants and tells her to take a look. Chaos breaks out across the entire building, as no one can wrap their heads around how some baby-level magician just slapped a ferocious C-rank beast that most people have never even seen in real life. Ark bathes in their salty tears while the flustered receptionist hurries into the back. That's when 3 men who work for the guild roll in like they own the place and examine the bear's corpse. While the nerdy one sweats over how perfectly the monster's body is preserved, the guy with the mustache looks deeply impressed that this scrawny adventurer took down a rare beast that no party usually survives, and without wasting a second, he makes a serious offer to buy it straight from Ark. A few moments later, the deal wraps up, and the guild lady hands Ark 20 gold coins for his trouble, pointing out that he got more than usual thanks to the high quality of his goods. He gives her a quick goodbye before heading into town, thinking it's wild how much cash he just made with his Doryman pocket ripoff. He checks into an inn and decides to take the rest of the day off to chill. The next morning, he walks into an armory where the owner sips tea with the most punchable smug look, because he knows the town's local loser just walked in to make a fool of himself. That smug look doesn't last long, though, because Ark coolly says he plans to head into the dungeon and flashes a shiny gold coin. That one glittering coin flips the man's entire vibe, and now he's sucking up harder than a vacuum cleaner while throwing suggestions left and right about what a genius magician like Ark absolutely needs. By the end of the shopping spree, Ark walks out fully dripped in gear and stocked with supplies that should easily keep him alive in the dungeon for at least 2 days. The shopkeeper even tosses in a map and a belt pouch for extra convenience. With everything ready, Ark leaves the city after asking the guards for directions and learns that the nearest dungeon sits about an hour away on foot, all hyped up to go to the dungeon where he can get strong by AFK farming an endless supply of mobs. He cuts through a thick forest, follows the signs, and finally finds a dark cave that marks the dungeon's entrance. The place runs on a layered system where each section has its own weird ecosystem, and the monsters plus the overall danger level only go up the deeper he travels. Still, none of that scares him because he's got a goal in mind and nothing else matters. With a determined look, Ark steps into the first layer ready to test out his shiny new skills with no hesitation. As he moves in deeper, the sound of footsteps scraping against the ground grabs his attention. Out of the darkness, a bunch of goblins suddenly jumps out, and Ark immediately understands that even though these E-rank pests are low-tier trash, one sneak attack from the pack could result in a game over, which makes them perfect warm-up targets. He stays quiet, waiting for the ugly little punks making fun of him, and prepares to counter as the first one jumps straight at him. Just as the goblin monster rushes in, it charges straight into Ark's trap where he instantly knocks it out using his insta death skill and finishes it off. The other goblins suddenly get spooked, completely confused about what just happened, and quickly come up with a plan to surround him. Ark immediately catches on to their movement and wastes no time blasting another one with the same skill. The group starts to freak out watching their buddies drop like flies without anyone even getting close enough to lay a finger on them. One goblin with an axe decides this is his big moment and dashes in thinking he can change the tide. But before he even figures out what's happening, Ark appears behind him and takes him down the same way, this time again without feeling that draining fatigue. He starts to wonder if this is happening, because of some hidden perk in his ability that lets him absorb stats from whatever gets taken out by his insta death skill. In practically no time, Ark wipes out the remaining pests while boosting his own stats in the process. To make it even better, he notices that the more monsters he clears out, the smoother it gets for him to activate the skill, with both its range and hit rate going up. As his soul retrieval kicks in, the effects become even clearer, and Ark realizes he's becoming faster and sharper with every enemy he crushes. At this rate, he starts to think he might just be able to keep casting his magic forever without running out of ammo. Before moving any further, Ark notices a broken sword lying beside one of the fallen goblins, and for a moment he wonders if it's possible to store monster equipment as well. But instead of testing it out, he shrugs it off and keeps going. As he explores deeper into the dungeon, he spots a narrow side tunnel and decides to take a gamble by heading in without a second thought. Inside, the passage turns pitch black, and the faint light barely stretches far enough to touch either of the walls. Just as Ark starts picking up on a strange, foul stench, he glances back and sees orc monsters emerging straight from the shadows. These beasts carry a savage aura and possess enhanced abilities, and because of their bulky bodies, they prefer using heavy weapons like massive clubs and axes. Now facing enemies that clearly outclass regular goblins, Ark prepares himself for a tougher fight. But the moment the orcs charge in, he quickly realizes they are way faster than they look, closing the gap in an instant with a swing of their club. Ark dodges in time and immediately responds with his insta death skill, which lands perfectly. The orcs clearly turn out to be tougher when it comes to emotional damage, and don't even flinch as their comrades drop dead one after another. Instead, they charge at Ark with just as much aggression. Fortunately for him, all the stat boosts he's gathered by now let him track their movements clearly, so he effortlessly dodges their swings and keeps annihilating them. One of the orcs tries to catch him off guard by going in for a surprise attack, but Ark handles it too, and notices how just a while ago he probably wouldn't have been fast enough to dodge something like that. He feels lighter on his feet now, and it becomes obvious that the stat absorption is seriously boosting his speed. Earlier, his only focus was on making the effective range of his insta death work, since it used to be a big weakness, but now he's practically creating the perfect conditions for the skill to activate without even trying. A few seconds later, another group of 3 orcs rushes toward him, most likely to avenge the others, but Ark leaps out of the way and dodges cleanly. With only 3 enemies left, he finishes them off like they're nothing to worry about. Still, even after clearing all those orcs, his skill level doesn't rise at all, not like how much it jumped after killing that one bear. Though a little disappointed, Ark figures it's not a complete waste, since the orc corpses apparently sell for a hefty price, and he plans to cash in on that later. Right then, a staircase comes into view inside the rocky dungeon, and the only thing Ark manages to spot is a faint glimmer of light shining from somewhere below. Curious to see what's down there, he decides to head down without wasting time. As soon as he steps into the bright space, his eyes get hit hard by the intense light that makes it almost impossible to see for a moment, and it turns out the glow is coming from radiant stones embedded all across the ceiling. Surprisingly, the place holds an entire forest and even a flowing river, making it almost unbelievable that this could still be considered part of a dungeon. Ark even figures that a lantern would be completely pointless in a place like this, given how insanely bright it is. While he's still taking in the strange sight, he spots a few people waving at him from a distance like they're trying to get his attention, and he waves back while wondering if they might be fellow adventurers. The group quickly hurries over, and before he knows it, one of them, a guy with a ridiculous afro, holds Ark as if he's some fragile maiden and immediately asks if he's all right. Ark gets confused and asks if something's wrong. The others clearly seem concerned, asking how a kid like him ended up all the way in such a dangerous area. Without holding back, the afro guy directly questions whether Ark has some kind of death wish or what, charging into a place like this all on his own. Ark calmly tells the guy that he has no such intentions. The lady among the adventurers asks the afro man to let go of the boy since everything seems to be fine. The afro guy then offers Ark to come along with them as they are heading back to the surface. They apparently have a bag stuffed with orc meat which they plan to sell once they reach town. He points out how lucky it is that they met in a safe zone and suggests escorting Ark back to the city. Ark curiously asks about this so-called safe zone and what exactly makes it safe. The afro man explains that for some unknown reason, this part of the dungeon somehow keeps all monsters away, so they were basically just doing some Netflix and chill before returning to the surface. Ark finds this concept pretty surprising, and when the afro man once again invites him to tag along, Ark replies that he plans to stick around for a bit. The big guy gets slightly annoyed at Ark for not listening, but before anyone can say anything more, a bunch of adventurers suddenly show up in a total mess, looking all beaten up and barely holding it together. The afro man quickly rushes over and asks what happened, moving fast to help the injured group. One of the battered adventurers cries out for someone to save him, but the afro guy reassures him that they're already in a safe zone and there's nothing to worry about. He immediately calls out to the lady in their party, Azuri, and asks her to heal the man. Azuri hurries over and casts her healing magic while asking the injured adventurers how they're feeling now. Once things calm down a little, the afro man gets to the point and asks what actually happened to leave them in such rough shape. One of the bruised-up guys asks if he's ever fought a skeleton before. The afro man chuckles and remembers them as the bony bros from the underworld, saying that while they can be annoying, they're just D-ranked monsters and shouldn't cause that much trouble. The wounded guy agrees that's what they thought too, but then tells him that whatever they ran into back there wasn't your usual pile of bones. One of the guys shouts that it was a giant skeleton, and the guy with the tick-tock e-boy cut speaks up he's seen those before, but this hideous beast looked way worse, because skeletons are usually just human-sized. He throws out the theory that it could be an augur, which are giant ogre-like monsters that grow nearly 4 freaking meters tall and reach strength levels equal to B rank. That freaks everyone out because something that massive shouldn't exist on the upper layers, and trash-tier D ranks like them would stand zero chance if it caught them slacking. Even so, the blonde guy tells them not to panic since they managed to escape through a crack in the wall that was way too small for that walking tower of bones to squeeze through. He advises everyone to rest in the safe zone and recover a bit before heading back. Right then, Ark shifts his attention to a strange sound behind them, and the Afro guy starts sweating like a leaky pipe as the ground rumbles beneath their feet like the earth itself holds a grudge. Out of nowhere, a massive black skeleton with thick horns on its head bursts out yelling "Surprise, mother trucker," and the squad's jaws drop so hard it lands on the next floor. The bone titan leaps from the cliff with a blade in hand and looks more than ready to turn them into shredded meat, which sends the entire group bolting like their lives depend on it. Ark watches the beast jump that high and feels legit impressed by its movement speed. While the D-rank party loses their minds over the fact that the vile monster hiked up the cliff after them like it's out here playing getting over it, just when they believe nothing else could possibly make the situation worse. The monster lets out a roar so loud it melts any leftover courage. And the adventurers instantly realize they're cooked. Afro Man freezes up completely, and his legs refuse to listen as he racks his brain over what he could even try against this thing. Then, Ark suddenly yells that he and Afro Man will stall it while the others escape, and before the group can even react, the scrawny mage zips past them like Sanic, with zero hesitation in his eyes now that he's finally strong enough to match the boss-tier freak's insane speed. Once Ark feels close enough, he throws instant death straight at the boss's ugly face, but the black fog scatters with a single roar. It's unclear whether the magic doesn't affect undead or if he just failed to get close enough for it to land properly. Watching this madness unfold, Afro Man's homie shouts that Ark is a certified gangsta because no average dude dodges the B-rank boss's non-stop slashes like that. Still, it becomes painfully clear that Ark's a squishy magician, and all the magic he keeps throwing out barely scratches the monster. That weird dedication sparks something in Afro Man, and he tells his bro to get moving because he's about to jump in. Meanwhile, Ark rushes forward again to reach the exact limit of the boss's attack zone and stretches his hand out, only to realize he's completely out of magic juice. The moment the boss lifts its sword to squash him into a cursed pancake, Ark curses his rotten luck. But right before it hits him, a backpack full of firestones smashes into the skeleton's back. Afro Man snatches the monster's attention and taunts it by saying its mother must be mad thick to pump out a skeleton like that. That triggers the beast, who glares at him and grinds its nasty teeth with murderous rage. Ark watches from the side, impressed by how resourceful regular adventurers get when using their skills and items to survive. Afro Man keeps ducking and weaving between trees and bushes in the forest, using the environment to block the giant's line of sight. He lets out a relieved breath after slipping away, but that peace doesn't last as Ark suddenly pops up behind him like a creeper, but instead of blasting him, Ark simply asks if he's holding up okay. Afro Man raises an eyebrow and wonders why Ark doesn't use his cracked speed to ditch them and bounce, but Ark calmly says he's not leaving until the skeleton is finally put to rest. That reply has Afro Man blinking in disbelief at his Delulu mindset. He is quick to point out how useful his magic looked back there, which smacks Ark's ego so hard he feels like a rejected anime girl. He mumbles that instant death magic is complicated, but once Afro Man hears what type of magic he's working with, he grabs him tight and yells that it's the single most garbage magic to ever exist. His loud little tantrum gives away their hiding spot, so Ark shuts his obnoxious yapping fast and waits quietly as the massive skeleton stomps past. He whispers to his new buddy that instant death magic carried him this far without letting him down, though he's not too proud to admit he still has no clue whether it actually works on the undead or not. Afro Man smacks himself in the face and points out what the dead and undead stand for, which only makes it more unbelievable that Ark went toe-to-toe with the giant behemoth full of confidence a few moments ago. Ark keeps a straight face and tells him that even if he can't win, he can still run away, but his bushy bro doesn't exactly have that luxury, and Afro Man realizes Ark's reckless move lets his party escape without losing a single soul. Ark reminds him he isn't part of any party, so there isn't anyone who would care about him. He then rants that unlike others born with talent and useful gifts, he has nothing going for him, so if something happens to him, he probably deserves it. That kind of unhinged Undertale-level determination shakes Afro Man's soul, and he believes there's no way they lose if they smash their brains together and plan it out. Once they finish cooking up the most genius plan they can manage, Afro Man shares his name as Gaston, and Ark introduces himself back. With that out of the way, the two walk right up to the giant skeleton and lock eyes with it like a couple of fearless kings asserting dominance. Facing death head-on, Gaston flashes back to 3 years ago when the commander calls him in for a private talk, only to drop the bomb that he's fired. The reason being that the army just raised its minimum system requirements, and Gaston is a potato far below the line. The man even twists the knife deeper by saying Gaston's level cap of 30 is above average, but still nothing worth bragging about, so anyone who doesn't meet the new standard is getting kicked out no matter how loyal they are. Hit by that brutal reality, Gaston tries to push back and argues that level means nothing if raw combat skill leaves everyone else in the dust. But the commander shuts it down coldly, explaining that rules don't bend for feelings. He even throws in a smug smile, saying that in their country, no one can just claim talent unless they show level caps and hard numbers to back it up. After that soul-crushing dismissal, Gaston apologizes and accepts his fate, calls himself a weakling, and walks away without even saying goodbye to a single comrade. With his heart pounding like back then, Gaston sprints from the raging boss monster behind him. Its ear-deafening roar makes his skin crawl, but he stays strong and taunts it, even though deep inside he's losing his mind at how they're supposed to take this behemoth down. He recalls Ark explaining that the skeleton's weapon gives it long range while his own skills are short distance only. And if it resists magic too, that shortens the gap Ark needs to work with even more. That's exactly why Gaston hatches the plan to take a hit from one side and create a clean opening for Ark to make direct contact. Ark gives him a serious look and asks if he truly plans to absorb a blow from a B-rank monster that could instantly delete his life. But Gaston responds that he might not look like much now, though he once served as a professional soldier and knows his way around a battlefield. More importantly, he refuses to run away again in this new life, unlike what happened back then. Afro Man sets up a genuinely five-head trap by luring the monster into a tight path lined with trees so it loses the space to swing its giant mace and send him flying into the afterlife. That limits the boss to just two attack options, either a quick jab with its blade or an overhead smash. But Gaston's big brain move isn't over yet. He faces it with his back against a tall tree to block the high attacks too, cutting off every move except the one he wants. Ultimately, the giant skeleton has nothing left but a thrust, and even if Gaston knows his arms and legs are wet spaghetti by comparison, he just needs to press X with perfect timing to parry. He somehow lands the parry at the exact right moment, though the sword still hits him with the force of Truck-kun and shatters every bone in his arm. But that's all he needs since the massive skeleton becomes frozen in place and should be easy prey for Ark to swoop in and land a clean hit, or so he thinks. Only a few inches before Ark closes the gap, the beast mutters a strange curse, and before he even realizes what's going on, he feels his ribs explode as a hidden arm from the monster's back slaps him away. Gaston stands frozen in shock as he watches the horror absorb the limb of some poor prey and sees Ark crash along the ground like a broken doll after taking heavy fall damage. His homie shouts out in panic to check if he's okay, but the big black skeleton flashes a wicked grin at the clown worried about the wrong one. A sharp crack of armor splitting echoes through the forest like thunder and somehow kicks Ark's brain back online. He jumps up in confusion and stares at the giant menace, now laughing at the idiot who thought he could outsmart a walking nightmare like this. But no matter how hard he tries to move, Ark's body refuses to respond after eating that brutal hit, so he racks his brain for any backup plan that could counter the hidden arm. He clenches his jaw in frustration and drags himself for being useless, haunted by flashbacks of Alan and the old man both being painfully right about everything. The giant skeleton creeps toward Afro Man like a cat toying with a helpless mouse, and Gaston suddenly regrets every choice in his life. In what might be his final moments, he silently hopes Ark won't be a fool as usual and will finally make the smart choice to run, while random thoughts about his buddy and the hot priestess he never got to smash flash through his head. Then, his eyes snap open in disbelief when he spots Ark up in the trees, looking like some off-brand Naruto cosplay from Temu just waiting to jump the monster at the perfect time. His heart pounds like crazy as he thinks there's no chance he fumbles this, because all he has to do now is jump down and tag any part of the beast's massive body. But right as he drops, the ugly freak twists its neck a full 180 and laughs straight into his soul. Gaston starts sweating like a dam just burst while watching the giant skeleton slice Ark clean in half, though it turns out Ark pulls a smooth move and whips out an orc corpse from his coffin, using it as a genius meat shield to survive the attack. With that, he jumps right on top of the giant freak and manhandles that thick skull like it owes him rent, causing the death fog to swallow its entire body. Meanwhile, Gaston's party along with the other adventurers stay near the floor entrance, silently praying that the two maniacs somehow make it out alive. Just then, one of the guys loses all patience and says they should give up and head home, since once the monster finishes with those two, it's clearly coming straight for them next. Gaston's homie grabs him by the collar and says he'd be more than happy to end him right now, but Priestess steps in to break it up so he stomps the ground in frustration, mad at his own uselessness in the whole mess. Just then, he hears a loud sound from inside the forest and turns to find the massive skeleton staring right at him, which almost sends his entire soul flying straight to heaven. Then, just as fear locks him in place, cracks start spreading across its bones and the monster slowly crumbles into dust. Two brave warriors arm in arm like real homies as the storm of dust clears around them. Seeing they're both alive, Gaston's buddy and the priestess go wild and cheer loud enough to welcome the heroes back home like kings. Back at the guild, Ark gets greeted by an angry man who instantly doubts his story and demands to know what is actually going on. Ark feels confused and annoyed, wondering why he even has to sit in front of this hairy guy like he owes him an apology. The man pushes him to spill what his real rank is, so Ark calmly answers that he's E-rank. That sets the man off as he starts shouting, asking how some bottom-tier E-rank nobody could possibly wipe out all those monsters on his own. Not long before this, Ark split the loot with Gaston's party, which left everyone satisfied as they went their separate ways. After that, he stopped by a store to sell his share, though the shopkeeper just assumes he's a glorified luggage boy for some elite team. Annoyed by the smug guess, Ark tells him that he works solo, which instantly kills the guy's mood. Though he eventually gives up with a headache and finally brings up the real issue. Why Ark keeps selling top-tier monster parts in some sketchy back alley shop instead of using the proper guild like everyone else. After roasting Old Man Gale, Ark explains that the last time he tried to sell his loot at the guild, a bunch of clowns accused him of stealing and gave him grief just for saying he earned it himself. One of those geniuses decided to start a fight, so Ark had a polite conversation using his fists. Gale immediately points out that fighting inside the guild is against the rules, and now it makes perfect sense why Ark avoids the place altogether. Curious, the old man asks what the guy looked like, and Ark replies that he was just some random dude with a soy boy haircut from a level 20 party no one's ever heard of. Somehow, Gale instantly knows who Ark is talking about and starts to believe the kid has a decent reason for coming to him instead. Still, the old man admits that with good gear and enough skill, clearing out orcs and goblins sounds possible, though he absolutely refuses to believe that an E-rank actually managed to take down the rare giant skeleton variant. Ark decides to amuse the old man and shares how he ran into Gaston's party, a bunch led by a former soldier, just before the monster showed up. At first, he had been farming alone, but there's no way his instant death magic would have finished the job without help from his bros. Old Man Gale has a stroke when he hears that Ark actually used the weakest magic type to take down a giant skeleton. The instant death bit makes it sound possible, but thinking he really got that lucky feels like a stretch, which Ark already expects. Still, the old man admits it does sound like something Gaston would get mixed up, and Ark gets caught off guard learning that Gaston actually has a pretty solid reputation. With that, Gale finally agrees to buy all the materials and stops nagging like his ex-wife, though he adds that he'll take a bit of insurance just in case. Ark snatched the stuff through shady means, which Ark doesn't really mind. On his way out, Ark spots a sleek black coat and locks eyes with it. Gale notices how much the kid vibes with it, so the old man throws it in for free since it's nothing too fancy. He mentions that it suits a newbie like Ark, and that's when Ark realizes he hasn't really been dressing like a mage who packs actual firepower. Now dripped out in a rad long coat, looking like Corito post-glow-up, he gets the vibe boost he didn't know he needed. Gale then tells him that the city is packed with fresh noobs like him as well as legendary veterans, and says it warms his crusty old heart to see rookies on the rise. He also drops the fact that this town is well known for letting adventurers rake in gold thanks to all the dungeons nearby. But at the same time, it's also risky because the monsters sometimes break loose. Lately, things have gotten so dangerous that the Emperor has been hiring S-rank parties from foreign lands for protection. Apparently, they're giving out S-ranks to random street dudes now, like that blonde, pretty boy who stole the only girl who would marry Ark. He then wonders if seasoned pros like Baltzark are just here for the cash too. After saying his piece, Gale advises Ark not to get too greedy for someone at his level and tells him to aim for just enough money to live a decent life. Since his materials are some Gucci-level cushions, the old man also insists he should always swing by his shop first instead of the guild because they're friends now. Not in the mood for more political rants or marketing pitches, Ark slips out before Gale launches into another speech and steps outside to meet Gaston, though he still has time before sunset. He pulls up his status menu and notices that his stats no longer look like a joke. What really grabs his attention, though, is the skill he picked up from the giant skeleton, which now shows as 4 times stronger than when he first checked, proving that the giant skeleton really was built differently. Feeling even stronger now, he decides that next time he's diving deeper into the dungeon and heads to the armory shop to prep and stock up on gear. By the time he's done, evening has already rolled in, and he starts thinking that maybe he doesn't need to team up with Gaston's crew anymore since he's gotten way more powerful. Out of nowhere, Ark senses a sneak attack from behind and dodges right away. Turns out a squad of E-rank wolves and a victory bell-looking thing want a piece of him. He remembers that monsters sometimes slip out of the dungeon after dark, but he destroys them without breaking a sweat and considers absorbing them even though they're not worth much. Right then, his whole body tenses as one of the surviving monsters suddenly leaps at him from behind and completely catches him off guard. But instead of going for the jugular, it just dashes past him and bolts off. He stands there baffled, trying to figure out why the monster that clearly had the jump on him didn't even look his way. That's when he glances toward the bushes it came charging out of and sees a wild creature looking like Tarzan. If Tarzan was a cute anime girl, racing toward him and yelling for help. However, she runs out of energy and nearly falls face flat on the ground next to him, so Ark quickly grabs her. He notices she has furry ears and a tail ready to be fluffed, which means she is a demi-human, but what concerns him is what could possibly have injured her. Ark tries to make sense of her broken words, warning him about something that happened in her village. Unable to understand what she means, He remembers that she isn't the reason the wolf was running away and gets ready to take down whatever ambushes him from the bushes. It feels off that nothing shows up right away, though it has to be something dangerous judging by how completely freaked out the wolf girl is. That very moment, a shadowy wolf creature appears, so he prepares instant death to teach the bad boy a lesson. Ark quickly tries using his insta-death skill on the bushes, but nothing really happens, even though he can still feel a presence hiding there, which makes him suspect that whatever's lurking might be way too cautious. Right after, he hears another cry, making it the third distinct sound if he counts the growl from earlier too. The air starts to feel heavier, and Ark realizes that things might be getting a bit too tense, especially since he can't get close enough to the bush for his skill to actually work, while still protecting the injured demi-human. On top of that, going up against multiple enemies all at once sounds like a pretty terrible idea in his current state. He starts racking his brain for something he could pull off in this situation, and just when his last functioning brain cell kicks in, he remembers the new skill he picked up after defeating the skeleton ogre, and figures it's worth a shot. The skill is called Quadruple Death Burial, which basically boosts the range of his next insta-death spell to 4 times the usual, though it also drains a lot more mana and needs a bit of a charge-up. Still, Ark decides to go all in, activates the skill, and begins preparing what might be his best and boldest move yet. His hand begins to shake and twitch from the recoil of the new skill, and he quickly steadies it by grabbing on with his other hand. Just then, he spots that same shadowy wolf creature again, and fortunately the charging is complete, so he fires off his insta-death spell right away. The attack feels like it hits dead on, and thankfully with his current boosted stats, the heavy mana cost doesn't leave him feeling dizzy like it normally would. Right after the spell lands, rustling comes from the bushes, and it seems like the remaining creatures decide to flee the scene, which works out in Ark's favor in every way possible. Ark then turns his attention toward the wolf girl and pulls out a potion, offering it to her so she can recover. As soon as she drinks the healing liquid, she instantly dozes off, and before she drops to the ground, Ark catches her in his arms. Judging by her completely exhausted face, it appears she must have burned through all her strength while running, and considering how terrified she looked earlier, that makes perfect sense. Even though the main goal for coming here was to grind some levels and build stats, Ark chooses instead to carry the demi-human girl back to Boltana. Before heading out, he tries using the dead coffin skill on the bush to retrieve the corpse of the creature he just took down, but nothing seems to happen. That feels odd, since the spell clearly looked like it had landed without missing. But rather than chasing the ones who ran deeper into the forest, Ark chooses to prioritize the girl, all while getting an odd sense of deja vu, as if something exactly like this has played out before. Meanwhile, Alan and his party are out hunting weaker monsters just to help Lynn level up faster. He checks in with the newbie and asks how her level is coming along, and she replies that the last batch of monsters didn't really give her much experience. When she apologizes for it, Alan tells her there's nothing to worry about since she's already done more than enough, especially considering she managed to hit level 20 in just 2 days, which clearly shows how fast she's progressing. He suggests they wrap it up for now and mentions that next time, they'll be diving much deeper to help her level up even more. The thief girl Fione complains that holding back like this is starting to get exhausting, and Dorothea the magician agrees with her right away. Just before they leave, Lynn bows in front of the whole party, thanking them and promising to work even harder. Alan acts like some divine saint sent from above, assures her that they're allies now, and there's no reason for her to feel like she's any less than the rest of them. Back at their resting quarters, Alan gets a visit from his comrade Eris. He casually asks the paladin if she needs something, and she waves a scroll at him, explaining that it's a letter from the king who wants an update on how the search for the keys is going. While adjusting his spectacles, Alan finds the whole thing such a pain and grumbles internally about how the king really is an impatient man, especially when they're already doing everything they possibly can. The real reason behind why S-rank adventurers like Alan have gathered in Kresha finally becomes clear. Contrary to the rumors about monster hunting, the truth is that this is a direct request from the king himself, who happens to be the one that established this territory. The restless ruler has ordered an exhaustive search of the deepest levels of the dungeon, where a bunch of mysterious keys are supposedly hidden. No one really knows what kind of power or purpose these keys serve, but what drives even elite adventurers to take this mission is the insane reward offered by the king, which is a noble title and land. Normally, even someone as strong as an S-rank adventurer would never dare to mess with noble affairs, but this reward is so ridiculously valuable that it's enough to keep the nobility quiet no matter how shady it seems coming directly from the king. The paladin lady taunts Alan, asking how long he plans to babysit the newbie and feed her milk from a bottle. Alan, staying composed, tells Eris to be patient and not rush things, reminding her that there are only a handful of parties like theirs capable of making it out alive from the lower levels of the dungeon. He explains that Lynn's potential is undeniable, and forcing things too early would only backfire on them. Until now, the only thing Alan's party lacked was a dedicated healer, someone to patch them up in the middle of battle when it truly mattered. Though to be fair, they never really needed one before because of how skilled they all were in combat, and probably still wouldn't if it wasn't for the dungeon with the keys. Unlike anything they've faced before, this dungeon comes with a known monster plague that's nothing like their usual encounters. The deeper they go, the more relentless the spawns become, as if the entire place is built to push intruders out. While raw power isn't a problem for his team, The strange nature of this dungeon, and the overwhelming number of monsters popping up out of nowhere, eat away at their supplies faster than they can manage, turning each dive into a serious challenge. Just when they were starting to feel the pressure, and were close to scrapping the whole Keys mission, Alan hears about a promising newbie named Lynn. A healer with an insanely high level cap, and a triple set of priestly skills is not something that comes around often, and for Alan's party, this unexpected miracle might be just what they needed. Eris complains to Alan that if they keep waiting endlessly for the newbie to grow stronger, Baltzark and his party might end up stealing the march on them, especially since, even if not stronger, Baltzark's team probably matches theirs in raw talent and combat ability. Alan, however, stays composed, and calmly replies that it shouldn't be an issue since Baltzark's team seems to be dealing with a healer problem of their own, and with the way those guys behave, finding someone willing to work with them won't be easy at all. To ease Eris's concern, Alan points out that the king has requested a total of 3 keys, and even if Baltzark's group manages to secure one before they do, things would still work out fine for them as long as they're the ones holding all the keys in the end. Eris stands up and agrees to follow whatever her leader decides. Alan then asks if there's been any new information. The paladin responds that there's nothing significant for now, except that their group has taken the north while Baltzark has moved west, leaving the labyrinth of verdant greenery to the east completely untouched, which happens to be near the city of Boltana. She adds that according to the guild records she went through at Boltana, most adventurers there could barely survive the middle floors. Alan sees this as a bit of good news, believing it gives them the perfect chance to take things slow and work through their objective at a comfortable pace. A few hours earlier, the wolf girl named Fatina sprints through the forest in a full panic with something terrifying chasing her. She shouts at the top of her lungs, begging for anyone to save her from the massive black wolf as she runs as fast as her legs can go. The last thing she remembers is a heroic knight swooping in like a legend, banishing the bad wolf to the shadow realm and carrying her off like some fairytale princess. Back in the present, she wakes up in a stranger's bed and sees a jacked guy asking if she feels okay. When she asks where they are, Ark tells her they're inside a shop in the city of Boltana since it was the only place he trusted enough to bring her to last night. Gale adds that he carried her on his back for hours, while Ark asks if the potion he gave her helped before she blacked out. Realizing her dream knight in dull armor is real, Fatina turns bright red, and she shyly thanks him for his kindness. After Ark introduces himself, she instinctively calls him Daddy, which really changes the vibe. But Gale jumps in before things get too awkward and asks about the beast from the night before. Fatina shyly explains she grew up in a remote village where monster attacks happen often, and normally beast men handle them just fine, but the big black wolf was something else entirely. She says it was so tough that even the village mages couldn't touch it, which catches Ark's attention. He asks her what it actually looked like since he swears he heard more than one voice out there, and that surprises Fatina because she only knows about one. Ark gets uneasy thinking about the terrifying roar he heard, while Fatina admits she might have missed another one in the dark. Then she remembers that spells didn't even land on the wolf, they just vanished before impact, which Gale guesses must be some sort of high-level magic resistance skill. He explains that big baddies tend to have annoying skills like that, where magic barely scratches them or looks like it just bounces off. Fatina says that once the soldiers figured out neither magic nor weapons worked, it turned into every man for himself, and she ended up as the unlucky target. Gale figures the survivors must have scattered to nearby villages or even made it to Boltana, which sends Fatina shooting out of bed in a panic to search for her people. The moment she tries to stand, her legs give out and it's obvious she's nowhere near okay. Ark catches her just in time and tells her to rest until her body actually recovers, though she starts throwing a tantrum. Gale calmly tells her it's a terrible idea to go out looking like a lost hobo. Apparently, the old man already prepared a change of clothes and even breakfast for her, though she tries to turn down the overwhelming kindness. Still, Gale tells her it's not a request, because if a girl walks out of his shop after spending the night looking like that, he'll have to spend his retirement playing Diddy Kong in jail. After dropping that, he heads out with Ark to grab some breakfast. On the way, Ark glances at him and realizes something. Gale is just like mildly burnt toast, tough and crispy on the outside, but unexpectedly nice and soft inside. Later, Ark joins him and Fatina in town where she sees the streets filled with refugees who clearly had better days behind them. While they search, they overhear a military officer giving orders to check every nearby village for wounded when 2 women suddenly call out to Fatina. The worry in her eyes instantly vanishes, and she rushes into her aunt's arms who tells her she isn't sure about the others, but it looks like the soldiers are keeping things under control. Ark feels relieved that she found someone to hold on to, and when Gale asks where he's off to now, Ark says it's obvious that he's going to hunt that wolf down and take it out, which makes the old man question if the kid has completely lost his mind. Gale reminds him again that there's been a serious shortage of soldiers for a while, so no one's around to back him up. Ark drops a surprisingly wise line that there's no need to protect civilians from the beast if he takes it down first. He wants to absorb its juicy skills, but it also happens to make things safer for everyone. Just as he's about to head out, Fatina suddenly stops him and asks to go along if he really plans to fight the monster. With a serious look, she promises she'll do anything he asks to be helpful. Her aunt tries to calm her down, but Fatina insists she lost both parents to illness when she was little, and the villagers who raised her became her family, so now it's her turn to protect them. She even bows and begs him to take her along, almost convincing him. Before he can respond, Gale cuts the emotional scene short and tells her she needs to head to the guild first and get appraised. If she's not cut out for fighting, she has no choice but to back down. After saying that, the old man puts Ark in charge of her and says he's done doing everyone's job, then dips. Meanwhile, Fatina turns on the puppy's eyes and starts wagging her tail like a full-blown helicopter, and Ark gives in. Inside the guild building, Ark keeps a low profile under a hood since he's got a bit of a rep, and tells Fatina to quit asking questions and go get appraised. The moment she places her hand on the measuring device, both guild workers completely lose it, making Fatina assume her level is really low. But the blonde suddenly screams that it's over 9,000, something she has never seen before in her entire career. The redhead chimes in too, announcing Fatina has not one, not two, but 4 unique skills which instantly throws the whole guild into chaos. Turns out she's got sword mastery, holy magic, the ability to slice through magic resistance, and a boost that makes her growth speed insane, making her the jackpot of ideal party members. Ark immediately grabs her and dips before the adventurers around them get too thirsty and try to snatch her up. Back at Gale's place, Fatina thanks him while panting from the run and flexes that she didn't know joining a party could be that easy. Ark feels like running off with her was the right move since someone way stronger, richer, and handsomer would have picked her up in a heartbeat. Just then, she hits him with a brutal question if he does not already have a party. He pauses for a second and confesses he's just a broke level 1 mage with only 1 usable spell. But Fatina lights up and says that makes it even better since it means she can actually be useful to him. He starts to feel guilty, thinking she'll also ditch him once she realizes his potential is next to 0 like everyone else did. But Fatina swears on the spot that no matter who tries to scout her, she already promised herself she'd party with him. Her strong feelings leave Ark completely stunned, and he wonders what makes her so loyal. She smiles and says Gale told her everything about how he saved her in the forest and carried her for hours without expecting anything back. She insists there's no one else she would ever choose to team up with, and Ark goes completely quiet. Hearing her motivational TED talk, Ark feels his shattered confidence heal from waifu number 2's warm vibes and officially invites Fatina to join his party. With that settled, the two head straight to Gale's shop, where the crafty old son of a gun looks like he already expected them to come back. Even so, he still raises a brow at Fatina's absurdly high-level limit and jokes that it's the polar opposite of Ark's broke stats, telling her not to carry the guy too hard. Then Gale slams a heavy box on the shelf, which instantly gets Fatina buzzing with curiosity. Ark asks what the deal is, and the old man smugly opens it up to reveal a shiny set of gear and solid supplies to help the wolf girl train in the dungeon, though Fatina starts panicking about how she's ever going to pay for any of it. Gale just laughs and says he's already ripped off the forever level 1 magician sitting beside her more than enough times, so this one's on him. He adds that the gear should last her a good while, though her master swordsman's skill might wear it down faster than usual. He presents her with a sleek sword made of pure, and she promises to treat it like treasure. Then the old man hands Ark a short sword to match his size, something handy to use in a pinch when close combat becomes unavoidable. With that, they wish him goodbye and head for the dungeon while Ark brings her up to speed on how skill and levels work. On the way, he asks her to stop calling him master since they are now equals in a party, but Fatina insists he saved her life, and that is one thing she will always be grateful for. Once our duo finally reaches the dungeon entrance, Ark tells her that dealing the last hit is very important because that adventurer gets the experience for slaying the monster. Once he's unable to level up anyway, he plans to weaken monsters so she can finish them off and grow stronger. Just as he finishes explaining, a loud scream tears through the air and grabs their attention. An adventurer comes bolting toward them while getting chased by a nasty orc and a swarm of filthy goblins. Just seeing the ugly piggy's face makes Fatina want to hurl on the spot. Just as the dungeon monsters charge toward them, Fatina decides on the spot that they're going to help the adventurers, simply because that's the kind of people they are. Ark agrees with her call, and even though everything unfolds a little too suddenly, Fatina draws her sword and dashes toward the monsters, taking them out one by one so smoothly that it almost feels unfair, especially for someone who supposedly never held a sword before. Watching herself move like a seasoned fighter, Fatina quickly realizes that it's the power of her sword master skill kicking in. Somehow, she can sense enemy movements and instinctively knows exactly where to strike and how to swing her blade. She makes a firm promise to herself to use this power to protect those around her. Right then, an ogre tries to peekaboo on her from behind, but Ark warns her just in time, and in one clean move, she slices off the ogre's arm like she's dealing with a fly, putting it down without a hitch. Both Ark and the adventurers rushing over get stunned by the girl's unexpected display of skill. Ark walks up to one of the injured adventurers and hands him a potion, asking what exactly happened to leave them in such a mess. The guy admits he doesn't really know either, since the monsters just started bursting out of the walls out of nowhere and went straight for them. Ark tells him to forget about that for now and asks where the rest of his companions are. The adventurer keeps repeating the same thing, insisting that the monsters somehow came right out of the walls, and before they could make sense of it, they were completely surrounded. What's even weirder is that there weren't any signs like footsteps or sounds to even hint that something was about to happen. Fatina turns to her supposedly wise leader and asks if this kind of thing is normal in dungeons, but Ark immediately shoots it down, saying he's never heard of anything like that before. Even the beaten-up adventurers back him up, claiming that this was the first time they'd run into something this bizarre. All of it starts to feel suspicious to Ark, especially when he remembers that skeleton ogre he fought earlier, which shouldn't have been anywhere near the middle levels in the first place. Right then, Ark notices that Fatina seems unusually focused, and when he asks her what's going on, she says she can hear footsteps and distant screams coming from deeper inside the dungeon. The battered adventurers say they can't hear a thing, but Ark explains that beastkin are known for having sharp hearing, so it makes sense that only she would pick it up. Fatina quickly alerts them that whatever's coming is getting closer by the second, and right then another group of adventurers appears, running for their lives with an enormous ogre trailing behind them, one that looks almost as massive as Ben 10's ultimate human Gausaur. The incoming adventurers shout for help as they desperately try to outrun the giant beast. Seeing this, Ark yells that they need to help and instructs the previously injured group to take care of the new arrivals while he and Fatina deal with the ogre themselves. Without wasting time, Ark and Fatina leap into action and confront the ogre head-on. It doesn't take long for Ark to figure out that this monster isn't some undead variant but a real flesh and blood ogre, and despite its size, the thing moves surprisingly fast. The ogre snatches up a huge rock and hurls it at the adventurers, sending them into a panic. Ark immediately recognizes that even in a weakened state, a creature like this would rank at least as a sea-level threat, and if it keeps chucking boulders like that, it becomes an even more dangerous enemy. Even so, Ark doesn't feel too worried about Fatina, knowing that her supplemental skill and the experience she gained from her last fight should be enough for her to keep up if he can just create the right opening. So, he activates his skill from a longer distance, not expecting it to kill the ogre, but to serve as a distraction, and calls out to Fatina to go for it while she has the chance. Fatina slices clean through the ogre's arm and leaps high into the air before driving her sword straight through its skull, the blade piercing all the way down and bursting out through its mouth, ending the beast's life in a single brutal strike. Ark can't help but feel impressed watching her, thinking that for someone who only just got started, she already moves like a top-class adventurer. As soon as the ogre drops, the other adventurers cheer and throw their hands up in a loud celebration, shouting in victory. Although no one seems to have taken any serious damage, Ark still urges everyone to stay alert and make sure they stick together on the way back to town, just in case something else shows up. Fatina then turns to Ark and asks what they're supposed to do next, and he tells her they're calling it a day, explaining that with how things have been going so far, pushing on any further would only be asking for trouble. Once they finally reach the surface, Ark notices the monster corpses scattered around and is surprised to see how few there are. He asks Fatina if she's sure these were all the monsters she took down. Fatina scratches her head and admits that everything was happening so fast, she never kept track, and apologizes for the confusion. Ark tells her not to worry about it, making it clear he doesn't blame her for something like that. Ark finds the whole thing pretty sus since he didn't even use his insta-death skill to kill that last monster, which means there's no reason for Dead Coffin to have activated, leaving the sudden disappearance of the corpse as a total mystery. Half a day later, the guild turns into chaos, with adventurers raising their voices in protest, demanding answers about how monsters are suddenly bursting out of walls, suspecting that the guild might be hiding something crucial from them. Things start spiraling as not a single adventurer seems to know exactly what's going on. Strong monsters showing up on the upper levels where they're not supposed to be, that creepy black creature, and now monsters emerging straight from the dungeon wall. All of it seems way too strange. Ark turns to Fatina and asks if she thinks all of these events might be connected to the dungeon itself. He tells her that, considering they're still beginners when it comes to understanding the dungeon's weird secrets, it might be smarter to shift their focus back to the black monster that attacked her village. Fatina then puffs up her chest and declares with full determination that she's going to get stronger no matter what. Meanwhile, over at the Eastern Gate Watchtower of Boltana, two soldiers pass the time discussing how the guild been stirring up a fuss lately about the Eastern Dungeon, claiming that monster numbers are suddenly shooting up. One of them points out how this is the first time anything like this has happened, and ever since that dungeon showed up, things had stayed relatively calm until now. The guy casually blames the adventurers for being too weak to handle anything properly, brushing off the concern like it's nothing serious. Just then, the other soldier who's been quietly scanning the distance through his telescope suddenly freezes, as if he's just seen a ghost. Whatever it is out there sends a chill straight through his body. Outro, what did the soldier see in the telescope to make him act this way? And can Ark and Fatina find out who is behind all of what is happening, and will Ark be able to get back his lost crush? Comment, Ark finds key if you're ready for part 2. Don't forget to give the video a thumbs up, share it with friends, and hit that subscribe button for more awesome videos like this. Thanks for watching, see you in the next one.